Good afternoon, guys. Watto back again. Got a little bit further with the wings. We've epoxied in through here. I know I said in the first video I was going to fiberglass the wings, but as you can see, fiberglassing doesn't agree with the foam that we're using here. So I've gone with epoxy, and I don't know whether you see the reflection in the light, but I filled up most of it. I still have some filling to do down the end here, being a little bit more liquid-like. It sits a little bit lower, so I'll end up adding some filler in with the epoxy and be able to fill that up nice and smooth. I filled some of the indents. They still need a little bit more filling. But what we've done now, it's the epoxy in here is really given some good strength to these wings. So hopefully we won't have anywhere near the flex that we used to have in them. Still got to do the spar at the end, and that, as you can see with the end, even though there's a little bit of epoxy over that, without the carbon spar in the end of the wing is still quite flexible. So the other wing that we've got, there again, still quite solid. Filled up most of it, still need to fill a little bit more down the end here, but the end is still quite flexible. Like I say, carbon spar into there. Progress so far is what I have done to try and get these wings nice and true through both of them, for the trailing edge, leading edge. I've set them side by side. Set them up here, and then what I've done is I've drawn a bit of a line through there so that I can get both of them pretty much exactly the same. So for length, there was a little bit of adjustment with the length. Obviously keep this end the same, adjust on the other length. Drawing a line up through the top there to make sure that they're very close to where they are, and they're not far wrong. You know, they're still both pretty true and near identical. Like I say, I'll need some filler to fill these in. The epoxy does a reasonable job, but it won't hold. It's watery, so it tends to sink in a little bit. So what I've found, like I say, I'm no expert at any of this. This is the first go at it, so it's all trial and error, and hopefully I can help some of you guys that are going to attempt this, or feel that they like to attempt it, that it's not quite as scary as what it is. I've probably put the cart in front of the horse, so to speak, in a couple of ways here. There's probably I'd probably true things up a little bit better before I got to this stage. Obviously sanding the epoxy is a lot more work and a lot harder than just sanding your foam. But anyway, so we've got to that so far. Now, one thing I've found is that getting then all these wings nice and true, if you can see what I've got there, I've got the bench is fairly flat. It's fairly good to work with. What I did was just run a scraper over the bench so that if there was any indentations, you could get really fussy and go with glass if you wanted to. But I've just laid out, glued 2 pieces of sandpaper together, laid them out on the bench, taped them down. As you can see, I've been doing some work here already, so the tape's starting to lift a little bit. And then basically running along the front here and back and forth nice and gentle, and just rolling our edges and getting it pretty close to the mark, having a bit of a look along the front and seeing what I'm touching, what I'm not touching, so it gives me a pretty good indication of how I'm going as far as true. You find through there we're fairly true. You know, like I'm not after absolute 100% perfection here, but I'm happy with 97%. I have found I've got a little bit vigorous there in part of it there that was very high, and rubbing it with which is probably a no-no, but rubbing it with a 60 grain 60 grit, whatever you want to call it, sandpaper. It's taken out a couple of chunks here and here on the wing. After the epoxy, I had a bit of a dollop of epoxy left on the end there, and it's taken out a real chunk. So we'll endeavour to go and get an additive that we can add to this West System epoxy, which is what I'm using, which is a filler. And I'm hoping that I can build that back up and then sand it back down and get it exactly right. Same with where the fiberglass was that ate through there originally. I've built it up somewhat, but you can still see there's some low spots here and there. So we'll use some filler on that. So yeah, like I say, I'm probably doing things a little bit arse about, but that's what learning's all about, and building, and you learn as you go. So obviously the next lot of wings that I'll build, I'll be a little bit more careful in what I'm doing. So like I say, I gave the back edge there, set the wings nice and flat, and gave that a really good coat of epoxy. As you can see, this section through here was a little bit lower than the rest, and there was a really good amount of epoxy that sat on there, which makes the wing look absolutely smick, but it's still fairly flat. So it has built it up very close to the original wing. So like I say, there's still a little bit of touch and go, or a little bit of sanding that's got to be done through there, but maybe another coat of glass on this side before I coat the whole lot will bring that up just that, quarter of a mil or whatever it is, up to the same size there. I don't think it's going to be a major hassle, but they're looking pretty good. They're still feeling nice and light. Like I say, we've got a very light epoxy coat over that there, and it's working well. So like I say, next step now is just to, now that we've got everything here, I'll use the trusty Dremel, put a different tip on it. Obviously I've been using that tip just to get off the drops of epoxy that I've had. Not sure whether you can see just little sections here and there where I've had some drips that have come down from the other side, to knock those down. I'll put a different tip on that. I'll cut our spar in the end here, and get that done, get some filler, and we'll just touch up these edges here, just a little bit here and there on it. The front edge, need to touch up a little bit here and there, a little bit down the back there. So there's we've got the basic wing structure and everything there. Now there's just a matter of just fine tuning everything that we've done. So I'm hoping that what I'm doing is helping some of you guys. Like I say, I'm no expert at this. I'm just a very novice. It's the first time I've well, maybe not the first time, but it's I haven't mixed up epoxy or resin or anything like that very much before and used it, so it's a whole new thing to what I'm doing. So hopefully it gives some of you guys that have never done it before a little bit of a spurt on, and that you'll give it a go. It's not that hard. It's trial and error. You look at some of the other videos, and the guys are doing some absolutely fantastic bloody stuff there. But working with the foam, yeah, it's a little bit different from what we're doing with ply. Ply, you sand it all down, get it 100% smick, coat it, and it's done. With the foam, you get a little bit anxious and sand it down, and all of a sudden you run through your epoxy and into your foam, raw foam, and it does take some chunks out here and there. So anyway, that's the stage that we're up to. Next stage, I'll cut that other spar in the end. Hopefully I'll get some filler in there, and we'll fill that up looking pretty smick, fill up some of the other little ruts that we've got there, and we'll get a wing that's starting to look like a really smick looking wing. All right, guys, hope it helps. Chat to you later. Have a great day. Bye.